Welcome to episode 81 of How About Them Huskies. I'm Connor, joined just by Andrew today. And this past week, Wednesday and Thursday, to be precise, were pretty historic days for the Huskies. Four of our guys were drafted into the NBA out of the four that were eligible, I guess we'll call it. So 4 for 4, we're all really excited about that. Well, real quick, Castle, I'm sure we all know this, but Castle drafted number 4 to the Spurs. You got Clingan, number 7 to Portland. You got Newton going 49 to Indiana. And Spencer, 53rd. Like 3 or 4 teams held this pick, but he's going to Memphis. All four of our guys I was really happy. I wasn't sure if the second round guys were going to end up going, especially as it got later, but they did. It worked out fine. And I guess before we get into this, Andrew, what was your overall reaction to the draft and just seeing all these guys see their names get called?
I was also very happy to see all of our guys get drafted, but more than anything, I feel like it's a bit this weekend was big for Dan Hurley too, because it's a huge recruiting thing, especially for transfers. Like a guy like Taris Reed, for example, is probably really more motivated. Aiden Mahaney as well. Transfers that came here because Tristen Newton and Cam Spencer, I can confidently say that if they probably went to any other school besides UConn or maybe like Kansas or UNC or Duke or something, they would not have been drafted. They probably would have been playing overseas somewhere and they would not have been drafted. But they came, they played for Dan Hurley. Tristan won 2 national championships and Cameron won a single one. So they turned themselves into draft picks by coming here. And I feel like that's a huge recruiting thing for Dan Hurley to say, look at this. If you transfer to my program, we have guys that transferred in that were unranked out of high school and got themselves into the NBA. So I feel like it was a huge weekend for all our guys. Congratulations to all of them, but also for coach.
Yeah, UConn led the way in college with players drafted with 4, I believe. I think I saw Baylor might have had 3 as well. Colorado had 3, and I think
Yeah.
Kentucky had 3. It was definitely Colorado. I forget
And the
the others.
funniest part was that the top two was France with 5 and UConn with 4. So we had about as much as an entire country.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny to look at. France, I don't know how many people they have. They have more than the 13 rostered Huskies from last year, though. So the ratio's a little different there. But yeah, we'll just kind of go down the line here with our Huskies. Well, I guess we're not gonna do the whole draft, but number 1, Risache from France to the Hawks. I feel like we all knew this pick was gonna happen. Will it be the right pick? Remains to be seen. Next, Alex Sarr to Washington. Dominoes were probably going to fall that way. Third, Rockets went Reed Shepherd from Kentucky, who was the first college guy off the board, which he's a good player. Don't get me wrong.
That was interesting.
It's a good, I think it's a good fit, kinda. I mean, we all thought Klingon might go there, but they still have Sengun, the center. There are rumors. There were a bunch of weird rumors with the Rockets and KD last week that kind of got shut down. But yeah, Reed Shepherd goes third, and our boy Stephon Castle, fourth overall. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if we expected him to go this pick or maybe even a little later, eighth. But a lot of us, I feel like me, I'm sure you. I don't remember where you had him, but we all thought Castle was going to be a Spur. It's the perfect fit with Wemby. They need a point guard, and I'm just happy he went there.
Yeah, the Spurs is a really good place for Castle because he's not just a guy who like it's kind of like hard and weird to explain. He's not like a guy like Wembanyama who can just walk into any program and change it. He's a guy that could definitely wants to be coached by a really good coach, and Greg Popovich is definitely the right coach for him. And I think that the Spurs are actually, I can't believe they traded Rob Dillingham, first of all. I saw that and I thought it's going to be him, Castle, Wemby, however you say his name, Soshan. But then they traded Dillingham for like fifth graders. So that was interesting. But either way, they got Castle. The Spurs fan base is funny, or not funny, happy that they got Castle, and he's keeping his number 5, which was interesting. All of our guys, well, Newton's number isn't out yet, but Clingan's going to wear 23 backwards of 32, and then Cam Spencer is going to wear 24, because 12 is Jaw's number, obviously. But Castle kept his number, which is 5, so it's definitely going to have a jersey coming my way soon for him and Clingan, and we'll see if Spencer and Newton get playing time. I'll probably grab him too.
Yeah, for me, I did this with Book Night, and I kind of just started doing it. If you get drafted, I'm gonna get your jersey. I did it. I have a Tyrese Martin Hawks jersey. I got both Hawkins and Jackson. Unfortunately, no Sonogo. It'd be nice to have his jersey, but also save some money not picking it up. So I don't know, win there, lose, however you want to look at it. Looks like I'm getting four jerseys this year. I don't know. It's just something I started with book night because I mean we were bad and it's kind of like we're back and it's kind of symbolizing that. But back to Castle with Pop. I mean, Castle's a winner. He's a guy who came in right away, won a title. The Spurs, I mean, they're not really in title mode right now. They're certainly probably on the come up. They're gonna be competitive for a playoff spot, I feel like this year, especially with making moves. Like you said, with Sohan and stuff like that. But Popovich sees that, and Popovich is a winner. He sees that Castle's a winner. He knows Hurley is a winner. He's gonna take a guy like that. And it was a little weird with that second pick in the first round. They drafted Dillingham, but traded him. They didn't get much really back in return. You definitely could have got a lot more back for that. But I don't know. I'm happy to see him play for the Spurs. I feel like it's just a great basketball organization. They know how to play basketball the right way. I'm happy for that. Moving down a few picks, there are a couple of weird ones between Castle and Clingan. Ron Holland, who went higher than a lot of people thought to the Pistons, and then our third Frenchman, Tijan Saloon, I believe, he went a lot higher than people thought, six. So number seven, the Portland Trailblazers selected Donovan Clingan. He's not going to probably start right away because they have DeAndre Ayton. I mean, Ayton's a guy who is he really going to be in the long term plans for Portland? Who knows? I mean, Klingon clearly is going to be in the long term plans. I saw on Twitter somewhere. I don't remember where I heard it that the Blazers would have selected him last year. They were really interested in selecting him last year if he went, and they got
Wow.
him this year. Yeah, so they've been in on him for quite some time. It's obviously a lot further away. Obviously, he's from Bristol. He went to UConn, hour away. This is like 3,000 miles across the country, but yeah, like you mentioned, he'll be wearing 23. 32 is retired by a guy named Bill Walton, who I personally see a lot of comparisons in their careers so far. Klingan won two titles. Bill Walton won a couple with UCLA. They're both going to Portland. I don't know, just the comparisons are there. It's eerily similar to me. Maybe he'll be a Hall of Famer Klingan on that track. Who knows? But I didn't personally see him going to Portland because of Aiton, but clearly they want him. They're going to make room for him, and I'm excited to see how that plays out.
Well, now that he's there, they're definitely going to move one of Jeremy Grant and Robert Williams, and maybe both. They're not going to keep all of them. They're not going to certainly not going to send Klingon to the G League. That would just be not fair. Um, but I think Portland's a good spot for him. I really think that if he learns under Aiden, Aiden's pretty good, obviously. He learns under him, he'll be just fine. He also has a good coach. Chauncey Billups is going to be a good coach. I know he's only really got 1 year under his belt, but Portland's a good young team. That's the thing about both of our guys. They didn't go to like veteran organizations like the Nuggets or the Celtics or something like that. They both went to young, kind of on the come up teams. So that's why I think they'll both be developed into very good players. But I like that spot for Klingon. And just a reminder, last time that he was in Portland, he won the MVP of the PK 85 tournament as a freshman backup center. So I'm really excited to see what he does there. And I think Portland's also very happy to have him.
That's right. I forgot he won that MVP. It was a very weird, like we didn't
That,
have a
yeah, that
clear
was
we didn't have a clear best player that tournament because Hawkins, he one of the games he played like 10 minutes because of foul trouble. Another one, Sonogo was like not great. So I guess giving it to him, Klingan, who was consistent all three games, and Bill Walton loved him. I'm sure we all remember that
Bill
broadcast.
Walton would have been thrilled to see him go to Portland. It just sucks that he's no longer with us, but he would have been thrilled to see
Yeah.
DC go to Portland.
Yeah, it was almost meant to be. And back to your point about the young core, the Spurs, obviously Victor Wembanyama, maybe the best player in the NBA in a few years. Who knows? He was really good his rookie year. Pairing with Castle, that's going to be a duo hopefully for a long time. And the Blazers, they have Scoot Henderson they just drafted last year. You still have Simon, Shaden Sharp. You got a lot of young talent. They weren't great last year, but I don't think they were trying to compete for a playoff spot with all those young guys. They're still trying to get their feet wet. Klingon's really going to help this. They also traded for Denny, I think is how you pronounce it, Avdija,
Yeah.
whatever, from Washington, who's going to play a part. So I like the direction the Blazers are going. They're a team that could compete for a play. Pretty much all of our guys are going to compete for playoff spots this year. Will the Spurs get there? Maybe, maybe not. But I feel like all three other teams that our guys went to will certainly compete. Let's see. We'll do a couple highlights here. Zach Edey went nine. I mean, that's some people said that was a bit of a stretch.
My God.
he was if it wasn't the Memphis Grizzlies drafting there, I don't think he would have gone there 9. But they're not a normal lottery team. They are really just missing a center. I mean, we're going to talk about them in a second actually because of Cam, but they have John Morant, Desmond Bane, Jaren Jackson, Gigi Jackson. They're missing that center. Edie could be that piece, and he's fits their timeline of win now. Devin Carter, lottery pick. That's good to see for the Big East, 13th of the Kings.
Well
Uh,
deserved. I mean, obviously we're not Friar fans clearly, but it's well deserved. He's a very good player.
yeah, he's a guy. I don't really dislike a lot of people. I mean, I don't know where I'm going with that. I don't dislike him. I don't know why I started like that, but he's a guy I respect his game because he backs it up. He kind of trash talks a little bit, kind of does some weird stuff on the court, but he backs it up, so it's fair game for me. Uh, Rounding out the first round, we'll go down a little bit. The fourth Big East player going to Andrew, your Boston Celtics, Baylor Shireman, another pretty much just like Zach Edey, a guy who's ready to play right away off the bench and win now. Real quick, how do you feel about that pick?
Well, all my friends were texting me because they know that there's three schools that I just don't like: Duke, Providence, and Creighton. And they were texting me like, "You got a Creighton guy." I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know what to feel right now because he's a UConn killer. He shot the lights out against us every time we played them in Omaha, but he's on my team now, which means that he could potentially kill other teams. So honestly, I'm kind of happy with it. I'm better than getting Filipowski, but I it's a weird feeling, but I'm happy with it because if he's good, I'll be happy with it. If he sucks, then I'll be mad. But I like it right now.
Yeah, Filipowski was funny. He had a very interesting week. I don't know if
Yeah,
you saw all that stuff. We're not gonna even.
that
I don't know most of it,
was
so I'm
my
not
god.
even gonna try to explain it. But it was funny to see him. Well, before all that came out, it's funny to see him like all upset because he was invited to the green room and he wasn't drafted in the first ever 2-day draft. So he got all dressed up and stuff just to have to wait till the next day. Funny to see the Duke guy that happened to him, especially
Yeah,
him because he's had some dirty plays, we'll call him this past season. But moving down, Tyler Kolek, the fifth Big East player off the board. I believe he's with the Knicks. Here it says Portland, but there are a lot of second round trades. I'm pretty sure he's gonna be with the
yeah,
Knicks.
he
Good,
was with the Knicks.
yeah, good to see that. Oso Ighodaro picked 40th, the second Marquette guy. I believe he's in Phoenix. This also says Portland. I believe he's going to Phoenix. I could be wrong. Yeah, and then our two guys, 8 guys from the Big East. So that's really good to see. First time since 2012 that's happened. But moving down, pick 49, Tristen Newton going to the Indiana Pacers, the Eastern Conference runner-ups from this past year. I mean, I like it because they're a team, they're going to try to compete again. They're not going to be a team that's rebuilding. They're going to want to get right back there. Will Newton be a big part of that? He could be. We've seen a guy like Andrew Nembhard for them. He wasn't drafted high, and he's kind of broken out as a star, especially in that series against the Celtics with no Halliburton. Could Newton do something like that as like a second round undrafted? He wasn't undrafted, but like late second round type guy. I mean, maybe. I mean, how do you like that fit in Indy?
I feel like that's the best spot for him because if he like based on all the teams he worked out for, which was 15 out of the 30, so half the NBA teams. I saw like I wouldn't have wanted him to go to the Knicks. That would have been a waste because they have every guard on the planet. And now including Kolek, so that just would have been stupid. But I like you said, like Nempar, like Indiana's an organization where they're not really the most hype organization. Like obviously they have good players, but like they're not really about hype. And if Newton proves himself, he's gonna play a lot, and I think he will. I don't think he's obviously getting to start, but he'll play some good minutes for them.
Yeah, I just pulled up their depth chart. Obviously, Halliburton and Nembhard, they're listed as the starters. You have TJ McConnell, Ben Shepherd, who was a rookie last year for them, played a little bit in the playoffs, but then it's Tristen Newton. I mean, you have Bennett Mathurin, he's probably gonna play more of the three. So there's certainly an opening, especially if there's an injury or so. I remember Halliburton was kind of banged up last year. He might be a little injury prone, who knows? Certainly a chance for him to play. And he also is a guy who he's talented. He may force himself into that rotation, even if there's no injuries. So happy to see him go there. I mean, I knew I was reaching a little bit when we did our mock draft, putting him in the first round, especially seeing he was picked 49. But he just could fit in a lot of teams. You mentioned worked out for half of the teams in the league, so yeah, happy to see that. And then 4 or 5 picks later to the Memphis Grizzlies via the Pistons, via probably every team in the league traded this pick around, but it ended up in Memphis. Cam Spencer, our fourth Husky drafted. He was the one we mentioned. We figured the other three would. Newton, we knew he'd be second round probably, but Spencer, you never know with the second round. We all thought Sonogo last year would get drafted somewhere. He ended up being an undrafted free agent, but Cam goes 53rd. Good to see, especially because he's 5 year guy. He's not this raw prospect. Usually those guys don't get drafted, but yeah, he's not gonna play much in Memphis, but he's certainly gonna compete. And yeah, it's pretty much all I got for that. How do you like that fit?
I mean, yeah, it's a good spot for him. Again, I don't know if he's going to play a lot. He'll definitely spend some time in the G League, but then again, they're Huskies. They're known to prove themselves. Andre Jackson proved himself. Sanogo got up there. Hawkins started, so it's not, even Tyrese Martin got NBA minutes. So it's not like, oh, this guy's just never going to play, a waste of a pick. These guys are Connecticut Huskies. They're taught to work their butts off and prove themselves. So I think that he can prove himself. But also, I just want to say our mock draft, yes, it was terrible. We are not NBA experts. This is not How About That NBA Team podcast. It's How About Them Huskies. We talk about college basketball, but it was fun to make. But I don't know if I think we got one or two picks right there.
Yeah, it wasn't very great. I could pull it up. I don't have it in front of me. Definitely at least a couple right though. So pat ourselves on the back for that. But yeah, Cam, he's probably going to be a two-way deal type of guy. Newton, I feel like, on the other hand, will be on I don't know if it's 13 or 15 man roster. They might have expanded, but Newton should be like an NBA roster guy. Spencer's going to be a two-way, like you said, shuffling back and forth between the G League. But I mean, you said Sonogo, Jackson, all these Huskies, they always, if you get an opportunity, even if they don't come every day, they're going to make the most of it. Sonogo only played a handful of games and had like a 2020 game or something like that. Jackson that had some of his best games in the playoffs for the Bucks last year. Hawkins, obviously, early in the year when the Pelicans were a little injury riddled, he played a lot, started, made the most of his opportunity there. All these Huskies, that's what they do. I mean, I expect certainly Cam Spencer, he's a really aggressive, not aggressive's not the word. What's the word I'm looking for? Passionate guy. Passionate. He's always going to give his all. I mean, Tristen Newton, he's a winner. He's won two NCAA tournament championships. He's going to give his all. He's on the court. And we know Clingan and Castle, the lottery guys. You don't really have to go into detail much there. But yeah, one more thing. Spencer, drafted to the Grizzlies. If I was him, and maybe I wouldn't because I might get beat up because this dude's like a foot taller, but I'd make fun of Zach Edey all day saying, "Nice ring. You don't have one, actually. We do." And just something like that, corny stuff. It's funny to see a Husky get paired with Edie. But yeah, it's pretty much it for the NBA draft. One more thing. I want to hear your thoughts on this. I mean, we kind of talked about it. 55 to the Lakers, Bronny James. I mean, we all knew it was coming, but I don't know. I don't like it. I want to hear what you have to say first, but I'll give my reasoning.
It's really weird. Like I want it to be cool, but if they talked about it less, it would be cool. Like what's her name? Malika Andrews, I think, said it's the most anticipated second round pick or something like that ever. Nikola Jokic was a second round pick. He was drafted during a Taco Bell commercial. Like I just they talked about it every single day. For God's sakes, there was on DraftKings, again, we don't really promote betting here, but on DraftKings, I looked, there was a Bronny James category under the the NBA draft category. It's just like they talked about it way too much. Like they've set this kid up completely for failure. And I feel bad, honestly. I'm not really gonna like hate on it, but I feel bad for the kid because the media ruined it. The media talked about it way too much, and now it's just kind of old, and that's why everybody's hating on it.
Yeah, I'm upset because, well, first off, this draft is 58 picks long because once again, I forget who two second round picks were taken away. That's just two opportunities for,
Philly was one for tampering.
yeah. I
It was
don't,
PJ Tucker. Who was the other one? I don't know who the other one was, but it was two taken away for tampering.
yeah, I don't want to guess because I don't want to be wrong on the second one, but I do, Philly does sound right. But that's just two spots that guys who would have been drafted for their lifelong dream don't get. I mean, the teams don't care. I mean, let's be honest, half these guys in the second round are gonna maybe see a couple minutes in the NBA and that's it. Some won't see any. So might as well let the teams or maybe force them to trade it. I don't know, put it up for auction. I don't know. There's something. You shouldn't take away picks from a draft. I feel like that's
Yeah.
silly. And Bronny going here almost took another pick away. I mean, I saw a side by side of him and his teammate Boogie Ellis, and the stats obviously Boogie Ellis was a very good player. He averaged 16, 17, and Bronny averaged like what, 5? I don't remember, something very low. And Boogie Ellis went undrafted and Bronny did get drafted, his teammate. So I mean, that sucks. I mean, Big East, I feel like could have had 9 guys. Trey Alexander was a guy who a lot of people thought would maybe even be a late first rounder. I saw him mocked. He didn't get drafted. He could have been in this spot, or he could have been in one of those 2 spots that were taken away. It's just that's one thing I dislike. And also, one more thing about the draft we'll wrap up. How do you like this 2-day format they did? I don't know. I have mixed feelings.
It's really weird. Um, you could clearly tell that they didn't care about the second round much because they didn't even show Cam and Tristan's picks. Like they just said, we've received word that the Indiana Pacers are taking Tristen Newton, but for Bronny they did the whole thing with the 55th pick. The Lakers select Bronny James. Like it's just they clearly didn't care about it. It would have been cool if they those guys got the same as like the first round guys. Like if they got the green room and they got to go shake Mark Tatum's hand, like that would have been cool. But they didn't care about it, so they could have done it way better, given those second round guys the same treatment as the first round guys. But thought it was kind of weird.
Yeah, 49 and 53 are way too close to 55 to do something formal. They have to spend as much time as possible preparing for Bronny to get drafted. That's not true. Maybe it is, but it's ESPN. Who knows? But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I like how it's me earlier. Like it was weird to have it at 4 o'clock, but it's also like the only thing going on at the time. I feel like the first round was definitely longer than usual because it
Yeah,
was done at like 11:15 maybe. And like there's no way a first round would be done at 11:15 if there was a second round after it. I feel like they definitely milked that on a little bit, but I'll be curious to see what they do next year if they go back. They're certainly gonna like take the reviews and stuff and take that in consideration, but I don't know. It's certainly different. I'm glad. I don't know if I'm glad is the word, but we had 2 guys going, so I was really into the second round. Maybe some teams that weren't, or guys that didn't have, or teams that didn't have players, fans, they wouldn't really be interested. But I was certainly tuned in to see our guys get drafted, so that's certainly a positive. But I don't know, certainly different, and we'll see what they do from here. And I think that'll just about do it here for episode 81. One last thing, actually, we saw, because of course, seconds after the draft, you have to have a 2025 mock draft ready if you're ESPN for some reason. 70% of these kids are freshmen and haven't even stepped on campus yet. But 3 guys were in ESPN's mock draft for this next year's Huskies. Liam McNeely was mocked 10th to the Spurs. Lottery pick, maybe him joining Castle. That'd be cool. Jalen Stewart was mocked as a first rounder in that draft, 30th last pick to the Celtics. And I'm pretty sure Caravan was 34th, if I'm not mistaken. So 3 Huskies. And one thing I got to say on this, and I'll let you. This is not going to go away. 4 guys drafted this year. That's not going to go away anytime soon. It may not always be 4, but we're not going to. We're now in a stretch where we've had 4 straight drafts with Huskies drafted. That streak's going to continue for a while. It's
yeah,
back to back with multiple Huskies. That streak's going to stay on for a while. We're in a brand new era of UConn basketball, especially after winning the 2 championships, and just don't expect this to go away anytime soon.
yeah. I'm not really gonna pay attention to any mock drafts, but yeah, I would say this. I would end on this. It's gonna be the same thing for years. Multiple guys. Last year was 2. What is this? 8 under Hurley now because of these 6 and then Martin Book Night. Yeah, this is Hurley's gonna end up having over 20 by the time he's done. Hopefully, if he stays here for longer. But yeah, this is not gonna go away anytime soon. It's gonna be 2, 3, 4 every single year. So get ready to buy more jerseys.
Yeah, and lastly, if Jalen Stewart, he's a first rounder. He had a massive jump, and I'm all for that. So hopefully, maybe ESPN is doing some foreshadowing there. But yeah, that's all we got. Episode 81. Matt couldn't make it today, but he'll be back for the next episode. Not sure when that'll be yet. We knew we'd have the draft, but after that, now we're kind of in like a dead period. We're going to figure out something to do for you guys relatively soon. We're not going to take like a 2, 3 week break like we did last summer. Last summer might have been a couple months even we went without doing an episode, but we'll figure something out. We'll try to get more guests for shooting stores. We've kind of having some trouble getting some guys, but we're doing our best. We're trying to provide the best content for you guys. And yeah, stay tuned for the next episode.